Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Dare to Be You TV show. So as you can see, I'm on my own. Deb is out making the most of the last few days that she can be, and is on a training course today. So I'm doing the show all on my own. It may in fact even be the first time that I've done it on my own. So welcome and good evening, and it's great to have you with us. Or me, I'm so used to saying us. It's great to have you with me. So today, the show, I decided to have a question and a topic, so that I've got a fair bit to talk about, which will be great fun. Question today is, how do I deal with someone who is unkind? And the topic I'm going to cover is the importance of self-care. But as always, before I dive right into the show, I just want to let you know about a couple of things that are coming up that I would hate for you to miss out on. So this coming Sunday, I'm hosting just me a masterclass called Finding Your Voice. And that will be 10 o'clock till 12:30 on Sunday morning, all about what it is in the world that it feels like can stop us from expressing ourselves. Each and every one of us has something in us that is ours to share. And that may be in words, it may be in artwork. I always kind of point to that example because I have Lucy's beautiful pieces of art sitting over my head, and that's kind of her way of sharing her voice. And for each of us, it's going to be different and unique and amazing what we have to share and give to the world. But we're extremely good at stopping ourselves from doing that. So this masterclass is all about helping you kind of just see some of the blocks that we can have and start to explore the way in which you would like to share your voice, to live your life, to express yourself. So if you want to join me for that, I've only got 6 places available, and 4 of them have already been taken. So there is still time to grab your space, but there's only 2 spaces left. So go and have a look on our website. It's daretobeyou.co.uk, and underneath the menu, I think it's ready to work with us. There's a menu item called Are You Ready to Work with Us? And underneath there, or I'll make sure the link is absolutely below this video as well. So it'd be great to have you. There's still time to grab your place for that on Sunday. And I also want to talk as well about the warrior's journey, which really fits nicely with my masterclass, because the warrior's journey was a program that Deb put together in 2015, and I took part in, and it was without doubt the turning point in my life. It was really transformational. It was the thing that really got me started in kind of getting to know who I was and finding my own voice in the world, and finding the way that I wanted to live, and beginning to live a life I love on purpose. And so that Warrior's Journey is a 90-day online self-study program that includes a one-to-one with us. So you also get some one-to-one time with us during those 3 months, the 90 days. But it's an amazing way to be in connection, to be kind of reconnecting to who you are and finding your feet or your voice in life. And the reason I just want to talk a little bit about the warrior's journey, because I think sometimes we can have in our mind what a warrior is, and it might not feel like it fits with what we share. But actually the reason that it became the warrior's journey is because of how much courage and strength and faith that it takes to be a warrior, to turn up each day from the space of knowing who you are. And so the kind of analogy of being a warrior is around courage and strength, inner strength. And so it's a really fitting metaphor for being on a journey, for beginning to explore who you are. And something about doing that for 90 days. So the way that the program works is that every day for 90 days, you get an email from us. Sometimes it'll be a video, sometimes something to read, sometimes a quote to reflect on, or a challenge to take part in. And the idea is that over a 3-month period, when we immerse ourselves in that way, something shifts for us, something about who we are fundamentally opens up and begins to see something new about life. So if you would like to join in the Warrior's Journey, it's just because it's a self-study program, you can just start as soon as you like. And the great news is, if you're on our mailing list, there'll be some fantastic offers on that program through November. So it's worth being on our mailing list and asking a bit more about it. But again, I'll make sure the link's below so you can find out and join in with that. So great, on with the show. So the question I wanted to talk about and look at today is how, I'm just going to read it from the board to make sure I get it right. How do I deal with someone who is unkind? And I wanted to pick up this question because if you're in our Facebook group, you'll know that we do a post on a Tuesday called Ask Us Anything. And you ask us anything, which is great. And one of the questions we had just a couple of weeks ago was something around that kind of, you know, what do I do when someone's being unkind to me or somebody that I love? And we did answer it in the post, so you can go and have a look at that if you want to know what, I think Deb actually answered it. But I wanted to talk about it today as a question on the show, because I'm really aware that there's a lot going on in 2020, isn't there? You know, whatever part of the world you're in, wherever you're watching this from, I can't imagine that there isn't something in your country, in your place in the world that's happening, because it's been a little unusual, let's face it, with what's gone on this year. And possibly for most of us, it's something that's never happened in our lifetime before. The kind of, you know, the words that we're using this year are brand new, aren't they? Words we've not used in this way before. And so I wanted to kind of look at how in the midst of things like that, there can be times when it feels like someone is being unkind to us. I know I've seen a lot of judgmental posts and a lot of comments on Facebook, and I'm sure, you know, that kind of thinking has gone on for me too. Why isn't somebody doing this? They shouldn't be doing that, and those kinds of things. And that's not the only way that we can be unkind to each other. So I wanted to answer the question, how do I deal with someone who is being unkind? And this is kind of how it looks to me. I notice, because the only thing I can really know is what goes on for me. I notice when I'm unkind to other people, that's coming from a space in me of fear, a space where it looks like I'm losing something, or I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. And so I, in some way, kind of act out. I act out of fear, I act out, and that behavior comes out from me in an unkind way. And what I notice is when I see someone else being unkind, it's an invitation to me to remember that I have been that person too. I've been unkind in my life at times. I can't honestly sit here at kind of nearly 37 years of age and say I've never been unkind to someone. I have, because I see that how we operate as human beings is that when we're lost in our own heads, when there's thinking going on for us, when there's a story that tells us something and we believe it to be true, we're going to act as though that is true. We're going to behave as though that's true. And so if I'm looking out into the world and it looks like somebody is doing something towards me, I'm going to behave in an unkind way, possibly. I'm going to do something unkind. I'm going to do what I think makes sense to me to feel okay again. And for me, understanding that that's where unkind behavior comes from, it comes from a misunderstanding. The only reason I would ever be unkind to somebody is if I've misunderstood where my okayness comes from. When I've misunderstood that I am okay, actually, my peace and my happiness isn't dependent on another person. And it works that way for all of us. And I think it's really, really helpful to remember that someone else could only possibly be unkind if they are in a story that looks extremely true to them. And usually somewhere in that story, whether they know it or not, is a belief that they're not okay, is a belief that something can, excuse me, damage or hurt them. And the only way to overcome that damage or hurt is by kind of being unkind in some way to somebody else. And it's a misunderstanding that is kind of rife in our society. I know for me that I have seen time and time again how unkind we can be as human beings, but I've also seen how kind we can be. Like I saw a news report the other day about a man who was at a petrol station, and there was a homeless man sitting on the floor in his shorts in the cold weather, and this man immediately took his own trousers off. He did have stuff, he did have clothes underneath, another pair of shorts, but he took his own trousers off and gave them to this homeless man because he could, because he knew he had other trousers at home and this man was cold and needed something to wear. And I see examples and stories like that all the time. Like, there's so much of that stuff going on out in the world, and we're very used to seeing the unkind stuff and the not so nice stuff. And what I just wanted to remind everybody of is that kindness starts within. So if you're feeling as though someone's being unkind to you, start by being kind to yourself. And then see how far you can spread that. You know, if someone's being unkind to you, can you be kind to you? Can you be kind to somebody else? And I notice that the more for me that I do that, the less unkindness I'm aware of, the less unkindness there is in the world. Because we only really experience what we're putting out into the world. And so if we're seeing unkindness in somebody else, somewhere that's a reflection of us, of something, you know, we will have been unkind somewhere in our life if we're seeing that in somebody else. And that's not a stick to beat yourself. That's not a, oh yeah, I've been unkind, so why can I ever expect kindness from somebody else? It's about just being honest and real with yourself, just for a minute, seeing that you've been that person too. Because I think what we can do is, that person's unkind to me, so then I go into kind of screw you mode or shut down mode or I'll show you mode. And I think what really changes something out in the world is when someone's being unkind to me, that I come back within and be kind to myself and then see how far I can take that kindness. Because if I'm asking that other person to stop being unkind to me and I can't stop being unkind to me, I'm asking them to do something I can't do. So it's always very gently an invitation to be kind to yourself first, and then see where that goes, see where that leads you, see what you can remember about how life really works. Because when we're stuck in a misunderstanding that life works from the outside in, we're not going to get very far. And I've seen that to be true because I've tried to make other people be kind to me when I'm not being kind to me, and I don't get very far with it. We operate from the inside out. And the more times we remember that, the more times we come back and start with ourselves, recognize that what we're seeing in someone else must be a reflection of us somewhere on some level. That then invites us to be different in this moment. That person's just been unkind to me. How can I be kind to me? And beginning to open ourselves up to those invitations. And it can be hard at first. It's a hard pill to swallow at first, because what we see in someone else, we don't want that to be us. And yet, when we realize that's an invitation for us to be different, it changes something. It gives us somewhere to go. It gives us possibilities. It gives us a place to move to next. Because if we were totally reliant on somebody else being kind to us to feel okay, quite frankly, we're screwed. You know, we've got nowhere to go with that. But as soon as we see that someone else is being unkind, we get the invitation to be kind. And that gives us so many places to go, so many possibilities, so many options. And I've just seen that time and time again. You might know from, if you've seen stuff on Facebook, that I'm on a bit of a mission. I'm starting a revolution, or I have started a revolution, to live more from love, not fear. And very much for me, this question gives me that opportunity. It gives me the opportunity to do something loving and kind and helpful out in the world. Whenever I see another person in fear, being unkind, doing something I don't agree with, that's just a new invitation for me to be kind, for me to be more loving, for me to do something for somebody else. And even something that maybe I feel a bit uncomfortable about, a bit oh, why would I do that? That doesn't benefit me in any way. But what I notice is that when we are kind, when we put kindness out into the world, it actually does benefit me. It benefits me, and it then begins to benefit everybody else in the whole wide world. And that feels big. That feels like, seriously, really, I can have that impact on the world. But yeah, you can. And so I'm kind of going to finish answering this question by putting a little invitation out to you. If you're watching this, if you're hearing this, if as I'm sharing this, you're saying, yeah, but that person really has been unkind to me. How can I do anything kind from knowing that they've been unkind? Here's your invitation. Find a way within the next 24 hours to do something kind. And if it needs to be for you, then do it for you. You know, be kind to you. And if there's a way to be kind to someone else in your life, do that. And just watch what happens. Just watch the magic that unfolds when you step out of that space of someone else has been unkind to me, but you step into kindness. It's just magic. I can't even quite put it into words, but do something kind. That's your invitation. So a great question, and hopefully that's gone some way to answering it. Excuse me. So the topic today that I wanted to talk about was the importance of self-care, which I think fits really beautifully off the back of what I've just been talking about and answering in that question. Because I mentioned at the beginning the Warrior's Journey and the 90 Days Warrior's Journey that I did in 2015. And something that really came out of that for me was self-love, which for me is just another way of saying self-care. I guess for me, self-love is perhaps the space I'm in, and self-care is maybe the actions I take from that space. But really, they're kind of two sides of the same coin. And very much for me in 2015, when I did those 90 days on the Warrior's Journey, what I saw that I didn't used to know, what I began to know about myself was that that I'm lovable, that something about me and something about every single human being on the planet is that innately we are already love. We are already the very essence of the universe, the very same energy and love that creates the beauty I see when I look out in the world. That's already who I am. That's already what I am made of. And so who am I not to love myself? Who am I not to care for me when I need to be cared for? When there's something going on and I need to take a step back or take a breath or do something kind for me? Who am I not to do that? Like I am, it's not an accident that I'm here. It's not an accident that you're here. It's not an accident that we get gifted this human experience, this being a Becky, that being a whoever you are, we get to turn up and be those people. We get to turn up and live from a knowing and a truth of who we are. And we get to cover that over with all sorts of crap in our head, right? Do you do that too? That's me. I do that. I fill my head with so much crap and forget that I'm lovable, forget that I'm good enough, forget that I can care for myself. And I get into so many stories of, I should do this and that should have been done yesterday. And if I haven't done this and if I haven't achieved this, and if I've let that person down, or if I don't turn up and say the right thing here, I'm not enough. I don't deserve my own love and care. And what I really enjoy in this conversation and what I love about the topic of the importance of self-care is that I get reminded of that. You know, that we haven't been on many airplanes this year, I think, for most of us because of the corona situation. But when you go on an airplane, when you take a flight somewhere, the announcements, the safety announcements at the beginning are really crystal clear. If there's a problem with the air in the aeroplane, then face masks will drop down and you'll have oxygen masks. And it's absolutely clear that you do your own oxygen mask first, that you get that in place and you're breathing and your body has the oxygen it needs before you try and help anybody else. And when you think that through, it's really obvious why that's useful. It's really obvious that if I don't get my own oxygen on first, if I'm trying to help somebody else and my oxygen is depleting, very quickly I'm becoming more of the problem. I'm suddenly somebody in the aeroplane that now needs a lot more help and a lot more attention because I've got no oxygen or very little oxygen. And so I've been no help to the person next to me. I've probably just caused more of a problem for them getting their mask on, and now I'm in danger. And for me, that's what self-care is. It's seeing that if I'm not starting with me, if I'm not looking after me first, I'm just becoming more of the problem. I'm just creating more of a danger. I'm just creating more issues, if you like. But when I, to take the metaphor, when I'm putting my own oxygen mask on first, I'm clear, I'm breathing, I'm okay. My body's got the oxygen it needs. I can now be of help to somebody around me. And if they're struggling with their mask, I can help them with a really clear mind. And that for me is what self-care is. If I'm lost in if my mind's oxygen deprived, then it's got nowhere to go. Our mind very quickly without oxygen can't do a lot. And that's true of self-care too. If I'm drowning under my own stories and thoughts and problems and issues and anxieties, I don't have a very good mind to help anybody else. But when I start by taking care of my own mind first, when I get into this conversation and remember the truth of who I am, when I get reminded about how I work as a human being, when I get the gift of experience and I come back and take some time for me in whatever way makes sense for me, I am of way more help to somebody else. I have a clear mind. I know how life works. I can turn up and do a YouTube show that maybe is helpful to somebody listening from a really clear mind. I have so much to give. And we are a part of an incredible system. Like, as human beings, we operate in a really smart way. We get these incredible feelings, and sometimes they're emotions and sometimes they're physical, that tell us where we are, that remind us we've gone a little off track, that let us know that our mind isn't as clear, that we're emotionally and spiritually oxygen deprived, that we need some time for us, that we need to come back and remember how we work. And our system is faultless. It never has a moment where it gives you an emotion and accidentally it's telling you something outside of you. No, it's always 100% working. It's always 100%. That feeling, that body, physical feeling or the emotion is always 100% saying something inside of you is happening. This is the quality of what's happening inside of you. This is how clear your mind is. This is the level of oxygen you've got, if you like. It's always pointing back to that. It's always bringing us back to where we are on a level of clarity. And if I'm not clear, if I'm not in a massive amount of clarity, then I know what my mind and my body and my emotions are reminding me is take some time for you. Step out for a minute. Do something that you know is going to help you come back to that space of clarity. Deb and I have a business rule. I'm going to just turn my head for a second because it's written on a little whiteboard over here. We have our rule for our business. There's 2 rules. Rule number 1, take action when you are clear and have inner knowing. Rule number 2, pause whenever you feel a lack of clarity and tense. And for me, that's it. That's what self-care is. That's the importance of self-care. When we feel clear, take action and be out playing life. When we have a moment and we notice we're not so clear, we're feeling tense or any of those feelings, just pause, take a step back. Each and every one of us has an inner knowing, a something within us that will speak and tell us what it is we need to do in this moment. If we're not in clarity, if we're struggling, we'll be guided to a something. And I can give you a whole list of ideas. You know, I'm a list person, as you perhaps know, and I have a whole list of, these are the nice things I can do to look after myself. And I could give you that list. But what's way more helpful is for you to know what's good for you, what your things are that help you to care for yourself. You'll have things that you know make sense to you. You'll have things that you know in a given moment, when you've stepped out of that clarity, when you're feeling oxygen deprived, spiritually, emotionally oxygen deprived, you'll have things that you know to do. And maybe they're brand new in each moment, or maybe they're things that you kind of tried and tested, or any combination. But you'll know that better than me. So I'm not going to give you a list of this is what to do when you need some self-care. I just wanted to really emphasize the importance of it, the importance of knowing when you need to take your step back, knowing when you need your oxygen, knowing how important it is to do that first for you, because you have so much more to give when you are healthy, when you are grounded, when you know who you are. You can give to the world in a totally different way. And I've really seen that kind of play out through the kind of 2020 corona pandemic that has been. I've really watched people move in and out, including myself, of that space of being helpful versus being part of the problem. And really that's what the importance of self-care is to me. To me, it's, am I part of the solution or am I part of the problem? And if I'm ignoring that warning sign in me when I need self-care, when I need to step back for a minute, then I'm part of the problem. And if I know to pause when I've kind of in that lack of clarity, in that tense space, if I know to pause and I do that and I pause and I find my way to self-care again, I'm part of the solution. And really that is the importance of self-care. Being part of the solution, being part of the energy that is going to bring this world closer together, that's going to bring each and every one of us to a space of self-love, to a space of kindness, like I talked about in the question at the beginning. So hopefully that gives you something to go on with self-care. And as always, you know, there's a couple of things I mentioned at the beginning, my masterclass that's on Sunday, this coming Sunday, the 8th of November, and the Warrior's Journey that you can start and join in with at any time you like. That's an ongoing program. Both of those are available on our website, and they're a great way to be kind to yourself and to show some self-care. But of course, you know, you can be a part of our Facebook group, be on our mailing list. There's lots of ways to be a part of the conversation that really just continues to invite you to look after you and to be caring and self-caring, whatever's going on for you. Always kind of start from there. So that brings the show to a conclusion for today. Next week, hopefully Deb's back with me in the hot seat, and we're going to look at how to remain sane in a crazy world. So I hope you'll join me for that next week, and thank you very much for being with me today. Take care and have a lovely evening. Bye.